Welcome to He Say, She Say Family Coach Live. I am your host, Char, attorney mediator and founder of Law for Love, a very special place in the legal system, headquartered in Atlanta, Georgia, helping families through legal processes in various different ways. But my license is in the state of Florida, the state of Georgia, and just really doing some amazing work in the background. So I'm literally just hopping out of a mediation. No time, no break. Just right into the live stream. And tonight's conversation, just kind of want to share some thoughts about fear of abandonment. And I want to talk about fear of abandonment from the standpoint of, hey, peace and blessings, Brother Fast Nickel, welcome in. Fear of abandonment from its roots, and also just two examples of how fear of abandonment shows up. And the first thing that I'm going to say, peace and blessings, Sister Coco G, welcome. The first thing I'm going to say about fear of abandonment is that each and every one of us has some form of fear of abandonment. And it is something that plagues marriages. It plagues many relationships, and it has a very interesting way that it shows up. And one of the goals in having the conversation about fear of abandonment is that if you are aware of how you personally are navigating fear of abandonment and how fear of abandonment may look in your spouse, your boo, your honey poo, then you can exercise a little more grace, a little more mercy, a little more long suffering. You can adjust the way that you're responding when your honey is acting out of fear of abandonment. And so, another, quick note, housekeeping. Please like, share, and subscribe here at Law for Love. The gender wars stop here because we're having a conversation and we're hearing from the male perspective and the female perspective. Conversations for strengthening and building up the Black community, the Black family, because that's where we at. That's where I'm at. That's who I'm a part of. That's what I'm passionate about. And we need each other. Black men, we need our Black men, and Black women are a very necessary part of our Black men just maximizing your potential and knowing where your place is in our community, in our tribe, where we need you. So, fear of abandonment, you had to learn how to be alone to overcome fear of abandonment. This is a really good point. This is a really good point. I want to share two stories that are like these really profound illustrations of fear of abandonment. So we were working with one husband whose wife was incredibly vicious in her words towards him. He would go out of the way to prove to her he loved her. He picked up an extra job to cover her and to provide for her. And in his experience, there was nothing that he could ever do that was good enough. And she would say some of the most vile things to a man who obviously loved her, who took his vows to her very, very seriously, and was even sacrificing his own health by taking on a second job and sacrificing sleep. And so, peace and blessings, Sister Nayuzeki. And he was doing all of this stuff, trying to prove and prove and prove to this woman that I love you and I'm here to stay with you. And so the rejection of his love, if I would call it that, the rejection of anything that he did to try to prove to her that he loved her and he only wanted her. And by the way, We're not talking about a brother who, not a good looking brother. We're not talking about a brother who's not intelligent, who doesn't hold his own. I mean, he can have any woman he wants. But in his mind, he only wanted this woman, his wife. He had chosen her. He had settled down and accepted her for who she was and what she brought to the table. But it was like the more he tried to prove to her his commitment and his devotion to her, she found more and more interesting ways to push him away. And so, fear of abandonment oftentimes will manifest in behavior that is pushing the person away. You have a fear of being left, but you're acting in a way that actually makes people not want to be around you. So, I'll get back to this story and about how far she went to push him away. But I want to talk about the root of abandonment and why I began this conversation by saying every single one of us has fear of abandonment. And that begins with the Garden of Eden. And, in its most simple form, it looks like rejection that Adam and Eve, they violated the law, and the Most High booted them out of the garden. And so with that comes this alone and nakedness. Of course, in his loving kindness, he provided a covering out of animal skin for them, but they had to go. And therein was the abandonment of not being cared for, being afraid of not being covered. You want to fast forward from the Garden of Eden, even after, oh my gosh, how many times the children of Israel kicked out of their land, allowed to fall into the hands of their enemies and other nations. But fast forward to the slave trade of the United States, chattel slavery, and the ripping away of babies from their mothers, the tearing away of wives from their husbands. That traumatic episode compounded the fear of abandonment for so many of us, descendants of slaves, not ever sure, not ever certain, always wondering or questioning whether or not we would be left alone, left to fend for ourselves, ripped away from the closest connections we have, and constantly living with that type of uncertainty. And a lot of people are not aware of it because it's not a conversation we have openly. A lot of people are not aware of how they behave out of a fear of abandonment. So that's why I'm inviting y'all to just kind of think and share and talk about it tonight, because it's present in each and every one of us until we deal with it, right? And so, yes, peace and blessings, Auntie. Peace and blessings, Brother Walt. So going back to the lady that I was telling you about, and I can't get into details about what the lady did because I can't ethically share the details of what she did, but I put it to you like this. She violated her husband's dignity. She publicly spread vicious rumors about him with his family and his friends. And she forced him into a position where he had to choose either to continue to sacrifice himself to prove to her that he would never leave her, or to finally just leave her. She had finally succeeded to turning up the fire hot enough that he left. So the thing that she feared, look, Job's famous words. The thing that I feared is what has come upon me. When you are plagued with fear of abandonment, then you don't even realize you doing stuff that's going to get you left. What do you say here, sis? Fear of abandonment can manifest as hyper independent. Yes. I was I was going to jump into this one when I gave the example of how a man, a story from a male, right? So I want to kind of show you how it looks like from a story about a woman pushing a man away and a story about a man pushing away. Um, that was a great point though, sis. So the story about the man who was afraid of being left, afraid of being abandoned. Um, he would just be, to your point here, Sister Nayoseki, extremely independent, never allowing anyone into his space. Um, critical beyond what is okay, where, his family was left wondering, does he ever have anything good to say? Um, Even when he would receive compliments from his wife, he would shrug them away or doubt her sincerity. He refused to trust anyone and didn't understand how he was no longer connected with his wife because he had isolated himself, believing that that was the safest place for him to be. And ultimately putting her in a position of choosing, do I stay disconnected and lying to everyone, pretending that we're together when we're not? Because he was in a relationship all by himself, too afraid to ever open up. So the thing he feared, being abandoned, is what he created by refusing opportunities to connect with other people. And so here at Law for Love, we see it manifesting in men and women. And I can't say that it's more men than it is women because we all deal with this issue. And when I consider what the word of Yah is, I now understand why it was so important for him to say to us, I will never leave you and I will never forsake you. I mean, consider how much the process of dating, right, actually exacerbates our innate fear of abandonment. So you start dating someone and you like this person and you begin to share your secrets and all your goodies or whatever else you want to share. But there's no commitment to stay with you, be with you. And I don't know, the wind blows the wrong way one day and this person just stops answering your phone calls or tells you, you know what, this ain't working for me. And they leave you after you've poured your heart into them. Well, that does a lot to make you being afraid of being left again. And it kind of builds a callous. I've seen people come into marriages where they opened up maybe to their first wife or maybe to their first husband and poured their heart out to that person. And when that marriage failed, they withheld a portion of themselves from their second wife out of fear. If she leaves me, I can't give her all of me. If he leaves me, I can't give him all of me. And this process, it destroys Connection. Connection is a very, very important word here at Law for Love because what I see too much of are people that are together but who are not connected. They're no longer listening to each other. They're no longer being vulnerable with one another. They're no longer sharing any kind of dreams. And let me tell you, for a lot of people, this happens where you have already a fear of abandonment present. This person has not overcome this fear. And thank you, Sister Coco G. She said, look, I overcame it by learning how to be alone. Recognizing that, hey, I like me. I like me. I like my company. I like getting to know myself. I like getting in touch with myself. I like being honest with myself, which also means that when I come into a relationship with another person, I could be completely honest with you about who I am and what I'm working with. Like my mother used to say, my mother's favorite saying, she used to say, please let me know what side your bread buttered on. Well, guess what? Having a season alone is a great way of you finding out what side your bread buttered on. It's very painful to see people that are in and out of relationships because they are afraid of ever being alone. They're afraid of their own company. And so, if you're afraid of your own company, if you're afraid of being alone, then you are going to have a harder time navigating fear of abandonment inside of a relationship. Hold on just a second. Okay, so I'm back. Anytime we are connecting with other people, it requires overcoming fear. Let me see what you're saying, sis. Having a season to be alone and reflecting on myself was key to me starting the healing process. Yes, 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 yes. And here's the reason why. The law that was stated by Yahusha concerning freedom, and that's freedom from anything that's afflicting you, freedom from something that you're afraid of. It begins with telling the truth. He says, when you know the truth, then it's the truth that you know that makes you free, right? So if the starting point is that I need to know that I'm afraid of being abandoned, by the way, most women will agree in marriages that we are afraid of being abandoned. We were talking about the abandonment that was, the extra layer of abandonment that came from the slave trade. What about fatherlessness? Dads who just walked out on their families, never knowing your dad, or your dad maybe passed away. There's an abandonment that we experience when people die. There's a deep sense of abandonment, aloneness, nakedness. So, yes, when you are first alone, the truth well, I know that I'm afraid of being abandoned. Great. Knowing is half the battle. Now you have to start telling yourself the truth about the fact that you're afraid, and you have to start telling the truth about things that you're doing when you're acting out of your fear, because fear is going to create irrational behavior. It's going to cause you to say stuff that don't make no kind of sense. Like I told you, the lady is sitting up here telling this man all manner of evil about his intentions towards her. But everything she accused him of was contrary to the evidence. By default, if I'm showing you the evidence that I'm committed to you, if I'm showing you the evidence that I'm here, if I keep showing up day in and day out with you, maybe I know I'm not perfect. I'm going to make mistakes. I'm going to stumble and trip. And yes, I will get an attitude sometimes. But if I'm showing up every day, then that evidence says that I'm here with you. But if you go and you confess out of your accusation, out of your fear, out of your insecurity, you trying to be with somebody else, you think about other people, you looking at other people, I see you looking at her, like you coming for somebody to prove that this person is going to leave you. Eventually, if you are not dealing with somebody who has the strength of Christ himself, crying blood at the Garden of Gethsemane, you're going to push that person away. So being by yourself is the opportunity for you to start telling you the truth about your irrational behavior, your irrational responses. Begin by asking yourself this: what evidence is this person showing me that they're leaving me? Or to the contrary, flip it around. What evidence is this person showing me that they're committed to me? And how am I allowing my fear to disrupt my connection with this person? Where am I keeping secrets? Where am I isolating myself? Where am I becoming hyper independent? Because I don't have to, because I'm bracing myself for the day that this person leaves me. That's the thought process. Let me see. What's this? I knew someone just like that. Crazy. Oh, like somebody who like all the evidence is saying the color red, and they sit up here accusing the color blue. It's crazy. It's crazy. Fear is irrational. And so taking that time to be by ourselves is a very important part of it. And again, like, look, y'all know I'm here to be offensive. You know I'm here to aggravate you. You know I'm here to get you to look at yourself and what you're bringing into your marriage. Are you bringing fear of abandonment into your marriage? Is your honey telling you, hey, you mean the world to me? And you like, no, I don't. Why would you respond that way? When someone digs deep down inside to use their words to connect with you in such a special way, to shoot it down and be like, nah, you don't mean that. What do you mean? You're pushing this person away and you're interfering with connection. Part one. Way back when I was dating, way back when I was on dating sites, I found that the women I met were broken, even though they would not admit it. That sounds like a red flag to me not to be bothered. Look, if you can't tell you the truth, this is Char's rule number one. If you can't tell you the truth, then all you're gonna do is lie to me. I can't rock with you if you ain't telling you the truth. And yes, I haven't been on dating sites for more than 20 years, Brother Fast Nickel. But I'm hearing scary stories about those places. So what's this? Oh, so there was a part two. Hold on. What part two? Part two, which makes any relationship hard because they really were never ready. Exactly. You want to be with somebody and you want somebody to accept you, but you haven't invested the time to accept yourself. Make that make sense. You gotta do a season, loving on you, getting to know you, like being real honest with you about the stuff about you that's aggravating that somebody else don't want to be bothered with. Because all of us have it. All of us have like that bag that other people don't like to be around or other people don't like to experience. And if you don't know what that is about you, you're not ready to be with anybody else. Expect them to put up with it. Part 3. As Coco G mentioned, you must come to grips with yourself and know yourself before you're ready for a true relationship. Yes, because relationship is just more than y'all look cute together. Relationship is more than just, y'all take fly pictures. Relationship is just more than y'all y'all please each other for a moment. Like, true intimacy and true connection, it happens in the conflict. It happens in the struggle. It happens in those places that really erupt and have you really thinking that this person really don't want to be with you, and y'all find a way to make it through that. That is true relationship connection. And that requires overcoming fear. And that's why before my child was coming in here trying to sneak and crawl behind me, it was distracting me, threw my thought process off. It just came back to me. Perfect love casts out fear. That is a law, y'all. That scripture tells me 2 things. Number 1, that the opposing force to love is actually fear. Fear is the opposite of love. And number 2, because fear is the opposing force to love, when we tap into the motivation of love, rather than operating out of the motivation of fear or the emotion of fear, when we are motivated by love rather than fear, we overcome fear. So, what does that mean, Char? What are you talking about when it comes to my marriage? I'm struggling with a fear of abandonment. And I'm recognizing that I have a fear of abandonment. And I'm talking to folks that's already married. You're already married. You're having a whole conversation with yourself. You need to have a staff meeting of one, you and yourself. And have a real conversation with yourself and identify the fact that, yes, I do operate out of fear of abandonment. I am concerned that I might get gotten, I might be left. Because that is a human condition that we are all plagued with until we face it, confront it, and overcome it. And it can come and sneak itself and come back and test you from time to time, even when you have figured that out. But then the second thing you do is you say, okay, what am I afraid to share with my boo, my honey, my sweetie? What is it that I'm afraid to say or do or reveal about myself because of this fear? And then make a choice. Number 1, I love the Most High enough that I'm willing to be honest with myself and tell the truth, because those of us who love the truth are called the children of the Most High. So first of all, if you don't have a relationship where you have made an agreement that you want the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, then you need to question your relationship with your creator, because your creator is also known as the spirit of truth. So to love truth is to love Yah, the Most High, the creator of heaven and earth. Number 1, I love Yah enough to tell me the truth. I love me enough to tell me the truth. And now I love my sweetie, my honey, my boo enough to tell him the truth, to tell her the truth. Because there's another principle in Proverbs that teaches that to lie to someone is a form of hatred. We don't always think about the fact that when we cover up our fears, and I'm speaking specifically about marriage, I ain't telling you to go out here and tell the whole world about all your fears. But in your marriage, where you have vowed your life to this person, to hide your fear, to lie about it, to cover it up, to become defensive, because maybe you ain't gonna see it if I'm gonna be defensive about it, is a form of hatred, according to the Proverbs. To lie to somebody is actually hidden hatred. All right, let me try to catch up with what that. I saw something. Thank you, Sister Vera. Oh no! Hey, Miss Vera. I didn't realize that was you. Hey, miss you, smooches. So, this is the challenge for each and every one of us. How do I make my choice from a motivation of love and not from the default human motivation of fear? And why can I say that? How can I prove that your default motivation is fear? Because when Adam violated the instruction, the first emotion that was recorded was that he was afraid. And all of us as children of Adam are born into a world dominated by the influence and the intentionality of fear. Fear of not having stuff, fear of lack, fear of being left, fear of being rejected, fear of failure. So the default motivation in our humanity is fear. But to walk in truth as a child of the Most High and to change our motivation, to transform our motivation from fear to love, is where others experience who our Creator is and His nature, His character. So I don't want you to know that that last fight we had me wondering whether or not you was really planning on leaving me. Because that's a common reaction to conflicts in marriage. Is he trying to say that he want to be with somebody else? that's like a fan favorite of many women. Does he really want to be with somebody else? He want to be with somebody that's skinnier than me. He want to be with somebody that's finer than me. He want to be with somebody that got more money than me. He want to be with somebody that's smarter than me. Like we have all these insecurities we project on the other person when we have a conflict. Oh, he really want to be with somebody else. But man, y'all ain't off the hook either, because y'all do the same thing. Now, I can't articulate the way it plays out in the male brain, but y'all do the same thing. Wondering, does she really want to be here? Is she planning on leaving? Does she want somebody else? But if that's your fear, if that's my fear, if that's our fear, then we have to find a way to choose love. That I love you enough, number one, to tell you the truth. Now, maybe telling you the truth don't mean that I have to, I don't know, bear my fear out to you in a way that's going to, because look, my brother told me this. He said, sis, men open up to you because you're not their woman. And a man can't look weak with his woman. My brother told me that. I said, okay, fine. If that's how it goes, is that how it goes, brothers? Because that's how my brother told me this works. Is it true that y'all cannot be completely open or honest with your woman, your wife, because you cannot risk looking weak with her? I need to hear from the brothers. What say you? That's what my brother told me. He said that's the only reason why men open up to me. Because I'm just the aggravating lady that likes to hold people accountable and remind them of what they said. So Miss Vera has created a workshop to help with these kind of issues. Thank you for plugging in that community support resource. I need to hear from one of the brothers, y'all. My brother told me that a man can open up to a third party and not his own wife because he cannot appear weak to his own woman. Now, we just had the 3-point presentation from Brother Fast Nickel. He done ghosted me. Should I drop the link? Can you hop on if I drop the link? How do I do this? How do I do this? Do I just put it in the comments? Are you able to see my comments? Did it go? I need a brother to speak. Okay, thank you. Uncle Walt came through in the clutch. Uncle Walt said that it is true. Now, how are we supposed to deal with this information? We have 2 witnesses, ladies. We have my brother who said that a man has a code that he cannot appear weak with his own woman. And Brother Walt is a second witness, and that makes this statement true. So what do we do, ladies? When we understand that our man might be operating out of fear, he ain't gonna just tell us that he's afraid. He's not gonna tell us that he's struggling, because the brothers are saying that they cannot look weak with us. So what is the proper response, ladies? Let me see. What you say, Uncle Walt? If we're around the leaders, if we are around the leaders, we have to stay strong. Now, see, I like that, but I'm gonna challenge you, Brother Walt, and all of the brothers on this. If y'all cannot come clean with your wives about where you're struggling, where you're having fears, where you are concerned that you may appear weak to your woman, then that underscores the importance of men fellowshipping with one another and being honest with each other about these things. Because too many of our brothers are isolated, are not speaking to other men, are not getting that feedback from other brothers that they are not the only ones feeling and thinking like that. You say that until it happens. Say what until it happens? Men should open up to other men. Yes. Men should open up to other men. If the code says that your woman can't see you weak, but all of y'all dealing with the same stuff, then I implore you, brothers, to be talking to each other about this stuff that you're not sharing with your wife. That you should open up. You should open up. I know you look, y'all got a bro code, whatever that is. I don't know. All I know is this. I don't care if it's a therapist. I don't care if it's a small men's group. I don't care if you got one other brother that y'all agreed that y'all gonna hold each other accountable and y'all gonna be honest with each other. As long as you are being honest about what you got going on. Because you know why, brothers? You know why? A lot of brothers fall into the trap of opening up to some other female. My male friends helped me through some very trying times. Hallelujah. This is golden right here. This is golden. You know, brother walks in a very unassuming wisdom. And when you have you have a brother telling you, look, you can't be out here doing this life alone, as you know, you a lion out here trying to do it by yourself. You can't. I think that with women, we're more wired to be in community with each other, but we've been isolating ourselves too. It's been getting ridiculous with the women as well. Oh, I don't get along with other women. We have all kind of excuses. Oh, women are this and girlfriends are this way. Or I have one girlfriend who went on and on and on about women in the faith have always hurt her. And I'm like, you know what? We're gonna have to get over that. People gonna let you down because people are raggedy because we people. What? What can be tragic for a marriage? Just were you talking about him going to talking to some other female because he don't want to be weak in front of his wife? I think that's what you were responding to, Cynthia. Sister Nayuzeki. This sounds like something my husband said. My wife is not my best friend. You're my wife. My brother, another male friend, is my best friend. Your husband said that? That was interesting. That was interesting. Is your wife your best friend, men? Your wife is not your best friend? I've never heard that one before. All right. Your brother is your best friend. So I'm assuming that we would be defining best friend as the person who you could tell all your secrets to, and it's not your wife. I don't know, ladies. How did that make us feel? How did that make us feel? Who's your best friend, Brother Walt? Is it your wife or is it your brother? I've never heard this one before. This one hitting different. Because if this is a second witness, if 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 we have a second witness amongst the brothers, I'm gonna just speak on behalf of the ladies that we don't like how that make us feel. Your wife is not your best friend? That's interesting. That's interesting. Because the one thing I would tell y'all who I've never met coming to me for a divorce, it's never been people who were friends. Never. My husband tells me all his secrets. He says that each role is different and for different things. Okay, I mean, all right, so we got nuance. Got it. I see the nuance. That's not kosher. That's how I'm feeling, Sister Cynthia. I'm like, hold on. Why I don't get best friend status? What's this? I have a friend that I've had for 30 years that gives sound wisdom. That's your best friend, Brother Walter? Your 30-year bestie is your best friend? He always gives wise counsel. Oh, so he's your best friend. Oh, wow. This is interesting. I don't know, ladies, but I'm intrigued. And thank you, Sister Nayuzeki, for sharing what your husband said about you not being his best friend, his brother being his best friend. Brother Walt just kind of chimed in as a second witness, like, ladies, this is a game changer. This is a game changer. So basically, what y'all saying is that wives need to understand that we are not the best friend. And that is why your husband can't tell you everything that he's afraid of. Dang, y'all done hit me. Y'all done hit me with some insight that I wasn't ready for. You said be the wife. Be the wife. Be the wife. So, what are we to do, wives? When our husband has someone else that's his best friend, but we the one who putting up with his stuff every day in and day out. We're the one who committed and vowed a death oath with this brother. I hope my pettiness is coming out. But we swore our lives to the brother. We don't get best friend status. We know that our husband is navigating fear of abandonment just like we are. How do we deal with that, ladies? Sister Nagaseki, how do we make the pivot from thinking we supposed to be the best friend because we promised that we was gonna die in this relationship with this brother? We only get out from one of us dying, but we don't get to be the best friend. Brother Walt say, be the wife. All right, Sister Nagaseki, you're gonna have to come through for the ladies right now. Because look, I'm still a little stunned by this one. I am. How do we make the adjustment in our expectations? A wife is an advisor, confidant, and partner. Sometimes it's hard to talk to your other half the way you want to and need outside wise counsel for advice. That is true. That is 100% true. And I actually I made this statement the other day because my husband and I, we went out, we had dinner, and it was just like super duper interesting, just kind of watching the dynamic. So on one side, there was two other people sitting next to us. It was two ladies, and they were talking about somebody who just got married and a wedding that just took place. And they're both single, and they're talking about marriage and all of their insights and their wisdom about marriage, but they're not married. So I was kind of tickled listening to their conversation because, they have very strong opinions about what marriage is and what it's supposed to be. And this advice that they're giving to the new bride about marriage. And I'm thinking, I'm sitting up here, I'm ear hustling on their conversation, of course. And I'm like, child, wait till you get married. And then on the other side of us, the table next to us on the other side, so we're sandwiched between two other tables. It was a couple who was not married, and they were actually sitting next to each other, like real cute, like, oh, we're dating and we're having fun and we're actually talking to each other and sharing our secrets with each other. But it was obviously they was not married. And then I'm looking at me and my husband, sitting across the table from each other 16 years into the journey. And I'm like, yeah, these are some interesting, dynamics happening around us where we're seated and we're less emotional and less judgmental about what marriage is because we've had to go through some landfills or some what do you call minefields, stuff that almost got blowed up. in this journey called marriage. We've come close to having to kill somebody up in here in the fight and the struggle for keeping our oaths and honoring our marriage. And so I say all of that to say, like, you do. Okay, so when I was talking to a sister about, just my observations. What I took away from watching and listening to these other conversations was, as a married couple, you have to be discipled in your marriage. Marriage requires discipleship. If it's just you and your spouse, you and your wife, you and your husband, and y'all just by yourself and y'all don't have nobody that you're doing life with to speak life and encouragement and insight and wisdom into your relationship, when you cannot talk to each other respectfully or openly, then marriage is a lot more of a hellhole than it should be, because you're not being discipled and understanding a lot of stuff you're going through. Okay, that's something that a lot of people go through. This is how you need to, adjust your perspective or what have you. Or maybe you might want to think about apologizing because that person probably took what you said this way. I know you meant it this way, but I can see how they took it the wrong way. That type of discipleship is very necessary once you're in the trenches, because people be sitting outside of marriage talking about what marriage is supposed to be, and bye. I don't hear that you got to say about marriage when you haven't been walking through this thing. And when you are seasoned in marriage and you are in a position where you can disciple other people in their marriage, it is a lifeline. So, brothers, I would give y'all space, and all due respect, that your best friend is not your wife, and she need to be the wife. And ladies, we're gonna have to unpack that a little bit. We're gonna have to unpack that a little bit. Yes, wife is advisor, confidant, and partner. But just like with any other relationship, husbands don't always feel safe talking to their wives. Okay, I get that. So I take it that husbands are also understanding that they are not their wife's best friend. Is it wives that want their husband to be their friend more than husbands want their wife to be their friend? I love to continue this conversation, y'all. This was really, really eye-opening. I wasn't ready for that, Sister Nayazeki. I was not ready for it. But I love it. I love it, because this is the kind of perspective that helps us navigate things, to put some things in perspective. Hey, let this be a conversation that anybody can come back to be like, all right, you might be operating out of fear of abandonment, or your husband might be acting out of fear of abandonment, and does he have a best friend, somebody to talk to? Because it's a lot of brothers out here isolated, y'all. And I know I've shared this before, and I will say this ad nauseum. Ad nauseum, that's the term that we use in the legal profession. I will say this to the point of nausea. 99% of the men who we serve in the area of a separation or a divorce do not have friends. They do not have friends. Their best friend is the TV. They are not doing life with anyone else. They are not living in community. It is a very disturbing observation for me. And I hope that for any men encountering this content, that you will understand that you do not have to do life alone. You do not have to do life isolated. That if you are doing life in that way, then you very well may be losing connection with your wife. And when you lose connection, that is when things get harder than they have to be in your marriage. So y'all had a lot to share with the community tonight. I appreciate each and every one of you participating in this conversation. Y'all gonna make me read comments, and I guess whatever. Y'all like, look, Char, this is Facebook. This is a YouTube live. You're gonna have to read comments. Like, can somebody pick up the phone and call me? Like, I like listening. Let me see. Here's a saying. Men build houses and cities while women build community. It's true. But man was not made to be alone. And I'm glad that for brothers like Brother Walt and Sister Nayazeki's husband, that they do have the best male friend. I'm not saying you got to have a lot of friends, but they ain't have somebody other than you to counsel with. There's a legal principle that says that there is safety in the multitude of advisors. And Proverbs 18:1 says that a man who isolates himself only seeks his own desires. This is a recipe for loss of connection. This is a recipe for loss of your family. And that is why we're talking about it, because it's a red flag. You don't have to go down that road if you realize that maybe you need to do an about face. Maybe you need to do a 180. Maybe you need to join a men's group. For you ladies who are not being discipled in your marriage, maybe you need to join a women's group. Maybe you need to be talking to someone who is seasoned in their marriage. And let me tell you right now, I don't care how many years someone has attached to their marriage. You could be married 30 years and be living a lie in misery and have nothing to add to from a place of wisdom in someone else's marriage. But prayerfully consider who is walking in wisdom as a wife, who is able to do life with you and disciple you in your marriage. And consider if you're dealing with fear of abandonment, you haven't faced it, you haven't gone through that season of solitude. That's what I like to call it, Sister Coco G, a season of solitude. If you haven't gone through that season of solitude, find out a way that you might be able to carve out some time to talk to yourself and tell yourself the truth about that fear, and identifying places where you have been irrationally behaving and pushing away your sweetheart, your honey, your boo, because you're really operating out of a place of fear and not a motivation for love. Because when I am motivated to love you, I will overcome my fears for you. I will overcome my fears for the sake of our relationship. I will tell you things that I may have been afraid to tell you when my motivation was fear and not love. I will risk being vulnerable for the sake of making our connection stronger when I am motivated by love. So, with that, family, thank you for joining Law for Love for another conversation. He say, she say, family coach live. Y'all are my family. I love you so much. And for all of the people who happen to find us, Law for Love is a place where the gender wars stop, because we're hearing what men are saying, we're hearing what women are saying, we're finding the truth somewhere in between for the sake of our communities, for building our families up, for depending on each other again the way we used to. And with that, I love you all, and I look forward to seeing you next Monday.